Yes, that's right. Survivor Know-It-Alls live here after episode 7 of Survivor 31. Survivor Cambodia Merge is here. And now let's talk about our 13 dateable jury members. Here is Josh Wigler. Josh, how are you?
Oh, I'm good. Feeling romantic now that you said that. Wow.
We're doing a 13-person jury also?
Yeah, I guess. Or I mean, everyone from this point forward eligible. So dateable. They are dateable. They are willing to hand out votes. These are very multifaceted individuals we're talking about now.
Boy, we're going to have a 4-hour finale here in this Survivor Cambodia. So exciting. What an episode tonight, Josh. I was on the edge of my seat the entire episode. I was trying to think of funny things to tweet. I just has my heart was racing. Thank God the Mets lost the World Series on Sunday, because if I would have had to try to multitask Game 7 of the World Series tonight and this episode, I would just be dead.
Would there have been sports tonight? Was that a possibility?
Game 7 of the World Series would have been tonight.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a lot of sports.
That would have been a lot going on here. But anyway, so excited to get into this tonight, Josh. I think this is going to be one of the most fun conversations that we've ever had on this show, let alone this season. And so many different ways to break this down, because when you have a 13-person merge and all of these different personalities and everything coming together, it was so much fun to watch.
It was crazy. Biggest merge in Survivor history, 13 people. Can you off the top of your head think of what the next biggest one was? I feel like we've done 12 before.
Yeah, we've done a lot of 12s.
We've done 12, but 13, it's an odd number, it's an unlucky number, a chaotic number, as we saw both in terms of Kass leaving the game and just pure freaking chaos on that beach. It was insane. So yeah, it was a real cluster F of an episode in a wonderful way. I do think I saw you tweet something to the effect of, this is what we hoped we would get back in May when the concept of second chance was in the air. Can you expound upon that?
Sure, I just feel like that when we had all these personalities back together, we sort of said, oh, okay, imagine all these possibilities, and especially when we fantasized about what could happen with the Cagayan people. Josh, I remember in the pregame, you wrote about, I forget if it was your pregame assessment of Tasha or your pregame assessment of Kass. I think it was Tasha, where you said you went to, when you visited the Bayan tribe, you couldn't believe that Tasha and Kass were sitting together. You imagined that Tasha would be throwing a punch at Kass. You couldn't imagine them just sitting there. And then we sort of tonight had almost you wouldn't have been surprised if it would have come to blows tonight.
Absolutely. No, it was this moment when I was there for the pregame and I got to visit both beaches. There was this moment at Bayan where all of the women of Bayan, Monica, Sierra, Kimmy, Tasha, Kass, they were all standing together in the water, just pounding fruit, just eating fruit, minding their own business. I called it the Bayan Mango Circle. Read into that as you will. And it was just this iconic image in my mind that is burned in there forever. I've got the photo. I'll tweet it out later tonight. But it's Kass and Tasha just standing across from each other, and I was really just shocked that these two people were coexisting and not just clobbering each other. I felt that the clobbering was inevitable. I think a lot of us did. It's hard to imagine, especially the old Luzon people from Cagayan, being on the same season again, and something like what we saw tonight not happening again. I think that would have been more shocking. So it was really only a matter of time before something blew up with these former brains, and boy did it blow up. So yeah, I agree. I think that this was a promise fulfilled. Echoes of Cagayan coming out all the way here. Chaos Kass going out really early in this game. It was nuts. It was nuts. I don't know how else to describe it. It was crazy.
Yeah, so much to get through tonight. We're going to talk through everything from this first episode of the Cambodia merge, and then so much going on tomorrow. We're going to have exit interviews with Chaos Kass. I can't believe it. She'll be my guest here on the podcast later on Thursday. Plus, Josh will interview her for Parade.com. Are you excited for that?
Yeah, I love Kass. I always love talking to Kass. I wish I wasn't talking to her this early, because Kass is tremendous television. I really love the way that she comes across on TV and just the unpredictability, which we didn't see much of until tonight. But I'm really curious to get her take on her experience. I think it's going to be a really good conversation. Can't wait to listen to your podcast. Can't wait to interview her myself and write that article up. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, and I would suspect, as always is the case with Kass, I think that there will be some drama that comes out and unfolds in the exit interviews tomorrow across the board, not just the ones we're going to do, but all of her exit press. I'm sure that there will be a few nuggets of the way that Kass sees the world. So I can't wait for that. Plus, then, wow, the scheduling gods were smiling on us, because This week on the recap episode, I'm going to have also from Survivor Cagayan, Trish Haggerty is going to be the guest, and I was very excited.
Why did you not have her on your podcast sooner, you cheapo depot?
Cheapo Depot. Well, we're not going to be a Cheapo Depot with the podcasts on Thursday because we're very excited. And, I sort of like a couple of weeks ago, I was like, oh, how that would be good, either like Trish or Sarah. And I thought that, okay, let me reach out to her. And I wanted to get Trish on. And I saw that she was also, she was very excited that Woo got voted out.
Wow.
And, so.
No love for Weasel Woo.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that. We'll explore that. Plus, we'll talk about what she thought about Kass's game and whether she thinks Kass ultimately took the advice that she gave her about the self-help books, and ultimately how she thinks that Tasha and Spencer are doing. So that's going to be really fun. Plus, we'll get into your voicemails about this Survivor episode. I'm sure there will be many with the host of the Big Brother Happy Hour, Jordan Parhar. So
That's
very
great.
excited about that coming up on Thursday. So big Survivor Thursday coming after a very fun episode tonight. All right. Josh, my question for you about Kass is, did Kass lose the game for herself tonight, or did she lose it last week?
What's your feeling on that? I mean, we obviously didn't understand at the time why she would choose to trust Spencer Bledsoe, her arch nemesis, over Woo, someone she has decent history with. Yes, he voted her out of the game last time, so there's a little bit of comeuppance there, but they had at least a decent working relationship in their experience. As we saw tonight, it wasn't contentious between Kass and Spencer. I think it's just where the numbers drifted. So I don't know. I know we were hard on her last week, but I don't know that last week voting out Woo was necessarily the death blow.
I think that this is pretty straightforward, and maybe Kass can correct this tomorrow. I think that Kass and Sierra got screwed by the early merge. I think that they felt like, okay, we've got this swap. It's only day 16 right now, so we got one more vote until the merge. We vote out Woo. Now we have the numbers. We could potentially throw the challenge here, and we'll vote out Andrew at the next vote. So It was going to be a two-step thing that was going to happen, where they were going to vote off Woo. They're going to vote off Andrew. That was going to cripple the greater Bion Bro-Alliance, which was going on there. Joe was going to be forced to stick with them because there was going to be no Andrew. They were going to have the numbers. They were going to merge at 12, and things were going to work out, and they were going to have the numbers in their favor. Unfortunately for them, they had the early merge, which allowed Andrew to get back together with Jeremy, with Tasha, to really pull the numbers over to their favor, keep Joe in line. Steven didn't have any reason to flirt with going to the other side, and ultimately they just were on the wrong side of the numbers.
Yeah, well, when you break it down like that, that's very straightforward. And that makes a lot of sense. Certainly the early merge was unforeseen. We've said it before, we'll say it again. This is, an unprecedented merge, huge-sized tribe here at Orcon. So it's definitely, I can see that. I can see that they thought that they were going to have their shot at Savage. They didn't get their shot at Savage. If Savage is out of the picture here, I feel like you're absolutely right. I feel like it's very easy to pull Joe over to their side, unless Joe and Spencer just join forces again like they did tonight and swing over to the Jeremy thing. We know that Joe has a good deal with Jeremy to begin with, and Spencer seems tight with those guys too. So maybe it's not a foregone conclusion that it would have gone that way, but I can see why they were building in that direction, to get rid of Woo, who is Savage's right hand right now, and then we get rid of Savage next.
Did you see Spencer and Joe as a pair?
The show certainly was trying to show it to us that way tonight. The show was definitely trying to get us on board with this idea that Joe and Spencer, America's sweethearts, were, they were the fulcrum votes tonight. Isn't that what the show is trying to depict, or did you get something different?
No, I definitely felt like that was a little forced, but I don't get the sense that Spencer is super into the Joe thing, especially when he, felt like he took a little bit of a shot with the hashtag Joe language, of almost like he has to talk to Joe like he's a dumb person. So I felt like that Spencer was not necessarily all in. I really thought that it was for Spencer, like why the show was really depicting it as that it was that much of a decision for him, especially like once the numbers started swinging. I didn't think that he really had much of a choice. Like I feel like at the point once like Jeremy and Savage are still talking to him, I don't think there's much of a decision in his mind to stick with Kass and Sierra.
No, yeah, the numbers were drifting. Cass's alliance was bleeding numbers, and it wasn't just that conversation of he's talking to Jeremy, he's talking to Savage, and that's something that's pulling him in deeper. But Joe is already moving toward that side. Keith, who Sierra and Wentworth and Cass, they thought that they had Keith. Keith is going back over with the Alpha guys that he was with, the Bayon brothers, as Savage likes to call them. So Keith, love you, Bayon, and he was moving over to there. So I think that it was a sea change, and it happened seemingly pretty quick. And Spencer, believe it or not, even says on the show, I would like to help Cass because she helped me, but I don't think I can. So I think that he just saw the way it was drifting, and it just was impossible not to drift that way. It would be foolish not to.
Yeah, he didn't seem vindictive about it at all in terms of how he voted. I'll tell you when I was really getting goosebumps during this episode, like once Keith Nale started to get involved, and maybe that's why maybe the Keith Nale thing still hasn't paid its dividends, because once they started getting him involved with the plan, they were telling him what to do, and really once he was like, okay, got it. And they showed Keith a couple times, like getting the plan. I'm like, oh my God, this is gonna be stick to the plan. Keith's gonna screw it up. Yeah. Keith's going to mess this all up. This is going to swing all on Keith Nale. And it didn't happen, but I feel like it's a tightrope every time. Every time you see him on the screen now in the post-merge game, it's like, oh, Keith's going to blow it. Oh, what's going to happen now because of Keith? Yeah. I'm telling you, this is going to be, it's a fun element to have here. Maybe Keith is to the post-merge what the now Purple Abbey is to the
pre-merge.
Yeah.
That'd be great. That'd be fun. I would love that. I mean, man, that's all that I want out of Keith. That and freaking winning challenges with balls involved, and he couldn't even do that tonight.
No, he couldn't do it.
Unbelievable. What did I vote you in here for, Keith?
No, he'll screw something up real good before this is all over.
Yeah, I voted this guy in to screw things up, to spit a lot, and to be good with balls. Is there much more to ask for with Keith Nale? Come on.
I want to talk about both Cass and Sierra and how they acted in this episode. So Cass was calm Cass, but she had this conversation with Tasha. Did you feel like that she was handling that in a manner that was helpful, or did you feel like that Tasha really was overly aggressive with Cass? Just let's talk through that first conversation between Cass and Tasha.
Yeah, well, Tasha is, she's deciding not to be honest with Cass. And how could you blame her? Tasha doesn't trust Cass. She's got reasons not to trust Cass. She's played with Cass before. It did not work out so well. Their history is what it is. They put on nice faces while they were together on Bayon. That was probably a lot of work on both of their parts. With Tasha, she decides to start saying these things that maybe the Bayon thing isn't quite as strong as it was, and Cass is picking up what she's picking up from Tasha, because I do believe that Cass knows Tasha pretty well. I think that she's got a good relationship, or not a good relationship, certainly not, but she has a decent read on Tasha, having played with her, and can probably pick up on some of the tells of when this is not a totally truthful comment. So it's getting tense, and I think that once Cass is starting to believe that she's not getting the full truth from Tasha, I think that's where the tension is really going to happen. And Cass has a way, when she doesn't believe what you're saying, she's going to needle that. She's going to poke a hole through that thread. And Tasha is not the type of person to take that easily. We've seen Tasha in situations before, where that high-stress situations where she's lost her cool. The Garrett thing immediately comes to mind. So she's not just going to sit there and take accusations lightly. So it makes all the sense in the world why this thing blew up. There was just so much history there, and I don't think that it was necessarily like Cass was goading the thing too far, or Tasha was being too duplicitous or too defensive. I think that once we get to this stage of the game and you have these two people still in the mix, I think that this is the formula. It just blows up. It just goes crazy.
Yeah, I feel like from the way that Cass and Sierra were acting from after the merge happened, I got the sense that they were kind of desperate in terms of what Cass was sort of like fishing for information, and then the way that she tried to flip that thing on Tasha to then say, well, Tasha just told me there's no bye on, so right. I guess that she shouldn't have told me that, so now I'm going to go and try to leverage that. But then I felt like that in conjunction with what Sierra did. And we've talked a lot about Sierra, both from the evolution of strategy and then in the preseason, and what Sierra is all about. And she kind of told you in the episode about, hey, I'm here, I play to win. I don't play for sixth, I play for first.
Yeah.
And I had been worried about, does Sierra try to force a big move if there isn't one? And that seemed like what she was trying to do. It was sort of like the Kass and Tasha tension was beginning to mount. And I'm not sure if Sierra said, okay, well, let me build on that or let me distract from that by going and making up this lie to Andrew. And I have to say, I don't think that was a great lie. I don't think that if you were going to tell anybody a lie, I feel like the lie is not to tell people Andrew said, hey, let me vote out Jeremy, let me vote out Joe, because I feel like that under no circumstances is Andrew ever saying those things.
Yeah, I think it's a misread on Savage. I think that Savage's MO is he loves his Bayon brothers. He loves his dudes. He's a big fan of the dudes.
Right.
And I think that if you're saying that Savage is going around saying, I'm out on Jeremy, I'm out on Joe, that's gonna ring hollow. You know, that will not stay, that lie. So I think that maybe is the better move maybe to try and convince someone like, I don't know, Steven or Kimmy, who are two people that you could feasibly see Savage being like, thumbs down on those guys. I don't know, they're not strong, they're not manly, they're not athletic, they're not tough. Maybe those are the two people that you want to work on rather than trying to convince Jeremy that, his number one bro from the old Bayon days is turning against him.
Yeah, it just wasn't. I appreciate the effort, but that was probably not the lie that you could sell to those guys, especially Andrew, that he does not have the reputation of being a liar, and especially when he starts, saying to Jeremy, I'm sure he's like, I swear on my wife, I swear on my kids, that Jeremy's going to believe him over her. So I don't think that was the best use of that information, and just to make it out of nothing.
Yeah. Well, this is something that we praised as a strength with Sierra on her first time out in Blood versus Water. There's this moment of hers. She's remembered for the rocks. She's remembered for voting out her mom. One of my favorite Sierra moments is when she's on the hammock with Katie Collins, and she's trying to confirm that Katie does not have the idol, and she basically comes up with this lie on the spot, this ruse on the spot that I have the idol. I found. Don't worry about it. I got it. And Katie's like, oh my God, you do? And Sierra just very spontaneously, very much in the moment creates this lie. And I think that that's something that Sierra does, is in the moment she acts. And we saw tonight when Sierra makes up this story about Savage wanting to go after Jeremy and Joe, it seems really quick. It seems like it's happening really fast, really spontaneous. So this is the other side of the sword, is sometimes the lie on the spot is not so good. It's this thing that we praised about her the first time around. The sword swings another way too. You can cut yourself on that thing.
She is a good liar. I did feel like that whole thing came off to me as a bit Hail Mary-ish in terms of, I think that Kass and Sierra probably saw the writing on the wall earlier than it ultimately unfolded in the episode. They felt like, okay, we're in a bad spot here, especially when the ultimate plan that they came up with was to try to get somebody to flip from the split vote to vote against Tasha. Now, Steven and I would debate this almost every time it came up. I'm much more of the school of thought of, do we have to split the vote every single time? Because I feel like that you're inviting that opportunity for something to go wrong. He has always said traditionally on this show where you do need to split the vote. You're always better off splitting the vote, and I felt like as this episode was going on, and I said, oh my God, there's going to be a chance that Spencer could flip this, especially when he said at Tribal Council about how this is my alliance tonight, but it might not be my alliance tomorrow.
Right.
I felt like, oh boy, this is going to end up blowing up, and Tasha's going to go home on the vote split. Did you think that the vote split was necessary, that Kass could have potentially had the idol?
I think it was dangerous. I think when we had this line in the sand, which we kept talking about, and we saw it get drawn multiple times by multiple people throughout the episode, when there did seem to be this very clear division in these two sides, seems risky. Seems risky to do that because you don't know, once you start saying we're splitting the vote, those people who were on that other side could now flip back to the side that they wanted to be on. I thought in this situation it was a really scary prospect. I don't know. I mean, I think it seems when you look at how the votes ultimately shook out, only Kass and Abby voted for Tasha, and Sierra, to me, inexplicably, unless you have an answer, voted for Savage. So only 3 people held on that line. So Wentworth, who was supposed to be tight with Kass and Abby, she shifted to the other side. She went to the other side of the line. Everybody went to that side. So clearly everybody was on board with whatever was brewing at camp. Maybe it was as simple as, let's make this easy on ourselves. Let's get rid of these two chaotic elements. These two, as Fishback put it tonight, the two smaller women. Let's put it on one of these. Let's make life easy on ourselves. Even Joe, I think it was Joe who said, it's just so much easier tonight if it's one of these three. So maybe it was a little bit of that Sandra Diaz twine, as long as it's not me, and it was just a thing that everyone was able to get on board with. Normally, though, I would say that terrifies me to do a split vote with this big of numbers. That's very, very scary prospect.
Just so many things could go wrong. Yeah. I feel like just pick a person and then just go with it. I mean, especially if you don't think that you're going to be the person that's going to ultimately be the person that they're going to vote for, I say, what the hell?
Yeah. So what would the move be then if we're not splitting the vote? We're just dumping them on Kass. We're just dumping them on Sierra. We're just taking the chance that neither of these guys have anything that they can play us out on.
I mean, I think that could certainly be the vote. I mean,
you could vote out Abby. You could vote. Who's playing an idol on Abby? No one's talking about Abby. You could vote Abby out.
I mean, does anybody have a good read specifically on like who has the idol? I mean, Keith's been with both of them for the whole way through. Keith, do they think you have the idol? No, I don't think so. So
I don't think that they're trusting Keith as the gatekeeper of where the idol is.
Look, I know, believe me, we've run the numbers on this. The numbers have borne out that playing the idol, doing the split vote, is at like 70%, 80% of the time it ends up going fine. But I don't know if that ultimately always makes me comfortable.
Yeah, well, listen, homeboy Stephen Fishback is out there, and he is the proponent of the split vote, and you've no idea how much of a driving force he might have been behind that thing. Probably was pretty happy to be on the right side of that vote, for sure.
Yes. Maybe one day Stephen will put pen to paper on a great sonnet about the split vote.
Oh, my God. Fish's Grandeur is what I'd like to read.
Yeah. What was with Stephen's poem tonight?
This is a great poem, right? By God's Grandeur by Gerard Manley Hopkins. I don't think that this is the Manley that Savage is looking for. I don't think that that's what he was after. It was great. Right. It was fun. It was very Coachian, a little bit of a
very Coachian. Very Coachian.
A little bit of Coach Fish. Coach Fish is a good look, right? That's not bad.
Why was that in the episode? It didn't have anything. It wasn't foreshadowing. It wasn't like a character thing where it wasn't followed up by people be like, I thought that was a little bougie when Stephen read the poem, or people nobody was like, oh my God, when my heart melted when Stephen read that poem. Right. It just was like, okay, here's a weird thing that happened. It was like a secret scene.
Yeah, it was like a secret scene. Yeah, and such a jam-packed strategy episode to have that moment from, a real strategist to be out there reciting poetry was a little silly. But I mean, obviously it's just cutting some tension. It's a rainy day. Everybody's bored, so we're going to listen to Coach Fish recite some poetry. That's what we're going to do today. That's what's going to happen. In terms of what it means for the overall story, maybe it's just reinforcement that Fishback is still in this coalition with Jeremy and Savage and apparently Joe and Keith, the men from Bayonne to begin with, and he felt like the nerd. That was the first thing that he told us on this show this season. Maybe it's just reinforcing the narrative of Fish as the nerd, and that's going to come to a head at some point. You got to imagine that's going to come to a head at some point now that these people are all in the merge together.
But did the poem have some sort of a context with what was going on in the game?
Here, should I read it?
Sure.
I've got it right now.
Deep dive.
Here we go. God's Grandeur by Gerard Manley Hopkins. Fishback tweeted out the link to this. You could read this on your own, but I'll just read it real quick. The world is charged with the grandeur of God. It will flame out like shining from shook foil. It gathers to a greatness like the ooze of oil crushed. Why do men then now not wreck his rod? Generations have trod, and all is seared with trade, bleared, smeared with toil. And wears man's smudge and shares man's smell. The soil is bare now, nor can foot feel being shod. And for all this nature is never spent, there lives the dearest freshness deep down things. And though the last lights off the black west went, O morning, at the brown brink eastward springs, because the Holy Ghost over the bent world broods with warm breast and with bright wings. That's
Fishback.
Yeah.
Fishback.
Yeah.
Fishback.
Okay.
Beats by Fishback.
Yeah.
It's good. I like it. It's good.
Okay.
I got nothing. I don't have a snap analysis to give you what the poem means.
Oh, snap.
Yeah. No snaps.
Okay. All right. Yeah, it's
But there
neither
you go.
here nor there to me, but maybe our commenters can help us explain a little bit more about what's going on. Joe, I think, was in an interesting spot tonight, and we talked about a
Yeah.
lot in the recap show and then through the week. I really saw this as Joe really being sort of in the middle with between these two groups, between being pulled to that new Takeo group that he was in with Kass and Sierra and Keith and Kelly, and then also getting pulled back to the original Bion group. And I
Right.
felt like that Joe was in a fantastic spot coming into this merge, whereas typically I think we said, all right, well, Joe will get voted out once we get to the merge because he's going to be such a challenge threat. So he was in a great position, I felt like, strategically, but then he goes out and wins individual immunity
Right.
the first time around. Did you think that that was a mistake for Joe to not attempt to downplay his acumen in these physical challenges?
This is something that I asked Joe before the game. It's something I asked Probst before the game with a guy like Joe, who he went out there in the beginning of Worlds Apart, crushes that puzzle, immediately paints a target on his back, goes into the merge, is doing the things that he's doing. Can he ever erase that target off his back? Probst says no. Joe says no. I think that Joe is playing this game full Joe. I think that he's going full Joey Amazing. I feel like that's the way he feels he has to play. Take no chances, like Rick Grimes, no chances. He can't risk the possibility of being vulnerable if he can win these immunities. I think if Joe reasonably thinks that he can win this immunity and protect himself for the night, I don't know that if I'm Joe and I have that size of a target on my back that I would ever feel comfortable not going 100%. I think that Joe is lucky to make it another 3 days every time at this stage of the game, and I think the only way to guarantee that is to win. And if Mike Holloway can win all those immunities, why can't Joe? So I think Joe has been going full Joe. It seemingly has worked so far. I don't know that he can walk that back. I don't know that that's something that he should do here.
The problem for me is that I don't know if Joe can win all of the immunities down the stretch. And Joe got off to a great start with the immunities in Worlds Apart. I think he won the first two before he got voted out at the third time, the time that he wasn't immune. And I just feel like that say he can win the first five. The first time he doesn't win, doesn't that set the stage a la Tyson in Survivor Tocantins, where the first time he's not immune, that people sort of get together like, boy, we got to take our shot tonight because Joe's not immune. As opposed to if he's not winning the challenges, sure, he's got to, try to stay safe based on how the votes are coming. But I almost feel like if you start winning a bunch of them, the first time you don't win, that's when the alarm bells go off. Whereas if you're just not winning them, sure, people know you're a threat to win the challenges, but you haven't been winning them, and maybe it's not so top of mind when you don't win.
Yeah, I think that the thing is that history exists. That idea of Tyson won a bunch of or won 2 immunities in Tocantins, and now suddenly he's not immune, and now we can get rid of him. I feel like those proverbial 2 immunities, those literal 2 immunities, they already happened. And I think that the fear with Joe has to be the moment I'm not immune, you guys are coming after me. We saw that. We saw when we were talking about the possible Takeo 5. The new Takeo 5 when that conversation was happening. Joe's like, I don't know. You guys are probably just going to try and give me the old runaround as soon as I lose immunity. That's what everyone always tells me. And we saw Fishback last week talking about that too. So it's in the air. It's in the air, and I think that's because he did have that Tyson moment already. I think that already happened. I think that Joe has a really hard, road ahead if he wants to win this game. I think that, that's the curse of being Joey Amazing. Literally everything else about being Joey Amazing is amazing, but your prospects of winning this game are it's a long shot because you really do have to just keep crushing it. I don't think that you can play it any other way if you're Joe. I don't think that's possible, and the path to victory is difficult, really difficult. But I think it would be a quicker exit if he was unimmune.
Okay, we'll see. I mean, it's so hard for me, and again, I'm spoken like a true loser who's not used to winning anything, so I feel like if you
win
win
podcast
stuff,
awards all the time.
Yeah, I feel like though
you're
that
winning at life.
Different. You're
winning at life.
Yeah. I just feel like that you just those alarm bells are going off more and more and more. Whereas if you start getting guys like Andrew and Jeremy saying, boy, I could win one of these if Joe wasn't around, I feel like that, as opposed to if they are winning the challenges, I think that maybe they're feeling better about keeping you in the mix and then sort of like making your push. I feel like this is kind of like a big brother strategy. What I'm talking about is like, okay, don't win. Okay, final 7 now. I'm going to start and to put it into overdrive and then go for, the brass ring.
Right. I think that, Joe is, he's in this game with a bunch of people who are strong, strapping lads, young lads, older lads, but strapping lads. And I think that these are people that he, I don't think that he can blend in with these people by any stretch of the imagination. But I think with someone like Savage, he feels decently secure, that Savage really wants to have his back up to a certain point. So I don't know. It's tough with Joe. I think that for the fact that Joe came into this episode and was, such a hotly sought after player, not a human being, but a player, was really surprising to me, because you're right. I do think that this is traditionally the spot where you start saying, hey, Joe got to go at this point, but people were courting him. He was thought of as a swing vote between these two different alliances. So, or these two different voting blocks, I should say. I guess we're out on alliances according to Tribal Council tonight.
Yeah. Now, did you read anything into that they talked about? I don't know if Steven was giving us some product placement, or it was just a coincidence when he was talking about the evolution of the game Survivor after you and I went through and watched all 30 seasons.
Yeah.
In the evolution of strategy.
Well, he did what we told him to do. We asked him to do an evolution of strategy shout out when he got out there, and it made it. It landed.
We had originally pitched him on like one of those like golden nugget type tattoos across his chest of evolution of strategy, but
then we were afraid that if he got to the family visit and Keith got to the family visit, that Wes Nale would come out and eat the golden nugget off of his chest.
Yeah. So, but good job of Steven talking about the how the game has changed. Did you see some sort of paradigm shift in terms of this merge and how it's not alliances, it's just groups of people working together?
Well, it started out as what seemed to be alliances. It started out to be, let's just call it, the Kass crowd and the Tasha crowd. Those seemed to be the two sides of the aisle. It was Kass's people. It was Kass, it was Wentworth, Abby, Sierra, and apparently Keith were in the mix. And then the other side was Jeremy, Savage, Tasha, Kimmy, Fishback, and Wigglesworth. And apparently Spencer and Joe were up for grabs, and it seemed to be a power play for those two numbers to bolster their alliance. As the episode wore on, and as these votes finally shook out, a lot of those people from the Kass crowd hopped over. So is that a betrayal of an alliance? Is it just we're going where the numbers are going right now? If it's really going to be that flexible, if it's going to be like constant, row 2 foring, fall of the row 2 foring, left and right, or, doing what you did in Amazon over and over and over again, yeah, that's different. That seems different to me, but I don't know that I saw that tonight necessarily.
Yeah,
Did you see
I
that
think
tonight?
For as much as I love sort of looking at the big picture and saying, okay, this happened, does this mean that it's going here? I kind of feel like if we even just go back to Survivor Worlds Apart and we go to, okay, Will is going and voting with the blue-collar people and he's never played with them, and Carolyn is switching over, and Kelly is going back from the people that she was with at the no-collar tribe. I think that, that was sort of a messy merge last season. If we go back and go to Survivor Cagayan and some of the things that happened in the post-merge game of that with Tony around.
Right.
So I think it'll be interesting to see just how much this ends up swinging from one way to another, but I think it's a little bit of a stretch to say that something new is happening here in Survivor 31 that's never happened before.
Right. I think that there are definitely a bunch of people in the mix here whose loyalties are flexible. And we've seen, someone like Spencer who doesn't really have a home to go to anymore. He doesn't have that. Takea was, basically wiped out. There's 4 of those people left. One of those people is Abby, who's unpredictable. One of those people is Wigglesworth, who he's been on a couple of tribes with but has never been close with. And then there's Wentworth, who was, like a key person in his group early on, and then Wentworth went with, again, the sea change. We got to vote out either Shireen or Spencer tonight. So you've got people who, Spencer's just one example. There's tons of examples in the game of people who do have flexible loyalties, and I think that is a product of how often these tribes have been switched up. There's been a bunch of mix-ups so far already. Numbers have been jumbled up. Personalities have been baked together. That was something that Kass talks about at the top of this episode. So I think that's all interesting, and that's all great Survivor. Whether or not that's groundbreaking yet, I don't know. But it definitely makes for a complicated storyline to follow at the very least.
Where does Sierra go from here? Is she now likely the next to go?
Writing seems to be on the wall for Sierra. Sierra seems like a really easy vote. I don't know if the easy vote is the way that we're going to go here. We talked about easy votes tonight. Sierra seemed to be really upset about the concept of the easy vote. I think that Sierra is in trouble. I don't know who she can rally to her cause right now. She's a really convincing player. She's a convincing liar. She's charismatic. I just don't know, with this many people still in the game, with 12 people still in the game, in the spot that Sierra is in right now, I think she could very well be joining the Queen of Ponderosa at Ponderosa very soon.
Kass is the Queen of Ponderosa?
Yeah, the Ponderosa video is up already. CBS put that up lightning quick. I think that maybe they put it up a little early as something that I saw on a YouTube comment.
Oh, boy.
But I got to watch it before we came on here on Know-It-Alls. It's great. I think, it's sad that Kass is off the show proper, but she is hashtag according to Ponderosa video, hashtag Queen of Ponderosa, and it's a good watch. It's fun. So I think the Ponderosa video should be fun this season, at the very least.
Josh, you ready to get into some of the questions from tonight?
Yeah, can I ask you a question first?
Yes, you may.
Why did Sierra vote for Savage? Do you have a theory? Any brain busters you got on that one?
Why did Sierra vote for Savage? I mean, I think that Sierra could potentially, if anybody was going to do something like that, I feel like for her to throw a vote at Savage and then deny it, a la T-Bird and Lex, I feel like if you were going to do that to somebody, I feel like Savage would be the guy to do it to. Sierra is the person who's always looking for that big move.
Right.
I mean, I think that she's sort of like an obvious person to have done it.
Right.
But I think when Savage comes back and like, okay, so who voted for me? She's like, I didn't vote for you.
Well, so what's
the Alliance vote for me?
But what's the gain? I mean, past votes don't count anymore. Do you think that she'd be like, "Hey, Savage, there's a vote on you. Past votes count. You could be in trouble." He's like, "Oh God."
I think that Savage would probably be the kind of person I think that would obsess about who voted for me last night.
Right. He doesn't like to see his name there.
Doesn't want to see his name there. So I think that could potentially be it, or maybe it's plausible deniability of like, oh, I wasn't with Kass. I was doing my own thing.
Right. Okay, let's get into questions.
So we'll see. All right, here is our first question of the night, and this is from Matt, who wants to know, is Spencer playing a good game, or are other players just making bad decisions? What do you think of the young lad tonight?
The young lad I thought was great tonight. The young lad had some options. People were coming after him. He could have gone with Kass. He could have gone with Tasha. When he did turn on Kass, it was unemotional. And for a guy who is supposedly becoming more and more emotional, I don't know that this was a regression to Robot Spencer. I don't think that this was Robo Spencer. I think that this was Spencer, realizing that this was just the way that it had to go. There was no malice in it, and I think that that's emotional growth too. It could have been very easy for Spencer to have given us the confessional of, I voted out Chaos Kass, it was so cool, neat, awesome, fat freaking city, but he didn't do that. He went with the side that he went with. Getting rid of Chaos Kass was the sensible choice for him, given where all the numbers were going. I thought it was good. I think that Spencer's got some options in this game. I think that there are probably bigger targets out there, although Spencer has routinely been somebody who has either been on the outside of plans or in the sights of people. So I don't know how long the run can last for him, but right now he's taking it day by day. That's what he says at Tribal Council, and I think that that's the best way he can play, at least at this stage, and in the late teens of Survivor 31. I think that's the best thing he can do right now.
But was it a smart move for Spencer? Because, hear me out, because if Spencer is on board with this plan, maybe these other votes don't start to defect where Kelly is going to do her own thing and Sierra starts voting for Savage. So let's say he's the glue. He keeps that 5-person vote together, and they ultimately take out Tasha.
Right.
Isn't it better for Spencer to have a foothold on something? Because don't you see this big Bion alliance coming after Spencer rather quickly here?
I don't know that I do.
He's second in the immunity challenge.
He did.
He's original to KO.
He is.
Don't you think they come after him before they start eating their own?
Maybe, but he was Bion at one point. He was close with Jeremy. They bonded hard. They were really close during those days. You got to imagine that him and Fishback are pretty good. So I don't know that it's that cut and dry. The thing about all of these different permutations of these tribes is there's so many relationships that we never get to see develop on the show anyway, but there's so many more this season. So it's really hard to know just how tight he is with a Jeremy or a Steven right now. But I don't know that it's as simple as we'll just go after Spencer next. Jeremy wants his meat shields, and there's no reason why Spencer couldn't be one of them. So I don't think it's a foregone conclusion.
Spencer's a meat shield for Jeremy.
Yeah, he's talked about him like that. I think he's like kind of like he's like a lean meat shield, but he's obviously somebody that's been targeted and people are threatened by his brain, if not quite his brawn. But he's really competent. You said it yourself. Second place in this challenge and incredible recoveries. Can't wait for the gif of Spencer dancing at the end of that challenge. That's gonna be really great to see on the internet as soon as we're off this thing.
Okay, Josh, who's got the next question?
All right, let's see. This next question is from Sage Hayden, RHAP. Abby Maria is the only one who, quote-unquote, stuck with the plan, and by voting against Tasha, what is happening? Yeah, that's right. Hurricane Abby is not on the right side of the vote for once, and sticks to the losing plan. What do you think about that?
This is fascinating, Josh, because we talked about this earlier in the season. Remember back at Angkor when Tasha was the person who was like the closest ally of Abby, and we talked about Tasha being sort of the Abby Maria whisperer? I thought there were some great shots in this episode where all of a sudden it's Kass in Abby Maria's ear, and Kass is like telling Abby Maria about how I've never told a lie in this game. I've been honest in the game, and Tasha is just sitting there rolling her eyes. Wasn't that really fun to see this sort of like tug of war between the Cagayan people over Abby Maria?
Yeah, it was good. It was fun.
And how did Kass win that? How did Kass? I mean, you would think that Tasha was tighter with Abby Maria.
You would think so too, and not just that Abby was tight with Tasha from the Angkor days, but she was tight with Savage once upon a time too. You know? Yeah. So there was that. Hang on, my TV has just started. Let me turn that off.
Okay. All right, and of course, just a reminder for tomorrow, we're going to do our voicemails with Jordan Parhar. So make sure get your voicemails into the show. Go to robhasawebsite.com/voicemail, or you could send those into us 323-282-RHAP 323-282-RHAP. All right, Josh, you ready for the next question?
That's the Wigler equivalent of getting a Chinese food takeout order in the middle of the podcast. This is from Amanda Fallon. Did it make sense for Joe to play to win immunity today? Everyone is already worried he's going on a challenge run. Hashtag Joe Hair.
I just feel like on this one where he was so safe, everybody wanted to work with him. Did he have to win this one? I mean, wouldn't it be great to sort of like be able to like, I could have won that one, I had that in the back pocket if I needed it. But he was safe this time.
Yeah, I mean, listen, my base state is I'm just so craven. I'm so unathletic, I'm so athletically challenged that if I could warg into Joe's body, which sounds amazing on a number of levels, and I was in his shoes, and I knew that the sights were on me, I would just use those gifts as often as possible.
Whoa, what do you mean? What are you even talking about right now?
Well, I mean in the context of the game, but if I was out of the game, I'd probably use them too. But in the context of the game, if I was Joe, I would just be kicking ass. I would just be kicking ass because I think here we are at the individual stage, and I gotta assume that everybody's after me. But maybe that just speaks that I would be a very paranoid. I'd be a very paranoid brain inside of Joe's body. Yeah. Wiggy Amazing is a bad look, let me tell you that.
Now, would Joe be in your body during this time also?
Yeah, and I don't know what that looks like. Maybe he would learn a few lessons in humility. Yeah.
All right, here's a question. This is from Johnny Hortzman wants to know, why did Kass think that going into Chaos Cast mode on day 16 was a good idea? Right. LOL, bye. Okay, I guess somebody not a Kass fan.
Oh, man, I'm sad that Kass is gone. Yeah, she had been calm Kass throughout this season so far. She had not taken out Chaos Kass. She had said in the first episode, she said, I just need people to believe that I'm calm Kass, and when the merge hits, all hell will break loose. Well, she was right. I don't think that she meant it to happen the way that it happened, but she predicted this. But she had been playing Comcast the entire game. What's your take? Why did she switch gears? Why did she revert to old tactics? Was this a huge miscalculation on her part, or did the situation force her hand, do you think?
I mean, I'm going to say the same thing that I said at the top of the show, where I feel like that Cass felt like she was on the outside of that big buy-on group, which was led by Andrew and sort of the alpha males. I think that she felt like that sticking with people like Kelly, sticking with people like Sierra was going to give her the best chance to win. I think that she felt like taking out Wu, who was a loyal soldier to Andrew, was the move. And I think that the follow-up move, which they didn't get to do, was going to be to take out Andrew. And I think that ultimately then she came into the merge and it was like an oh crap moment.
Right.
Let me go back to my trump card of here's what I know how to do. She had to go into Chaos Cast mode because she knew that Andrew was going to be gunning for her. Now, maybe
Cass's
if it's
trump
not
card
for
sounds scary. That sounds terrifying.
maybe if it's not for her pushing Tasha's buttons so much, maybe they go after Sierra.
Yeah.
But it was Cass that they ultimately came for after Cass antagonizes Tasha. Tasha did seem to take a lot of pleasure in voting against Cass tonight, and that's ultimately how it goes. But I feel like for Cass, I think that she was more screwed by the numbers and the merge more so than she was screwed by the decision to be Chaos Cast tonight.
So in her Ponderosa video, Cass, she says that she's very happy with the way that she played. She feels that she bombed her game with the Chaos Cass stuff. How do we feel about how Cass played this time? Yeah, she's going out early, but does that negate the good stuff that you saw from the first, her what we did see of her this season up until tonight?
It's really hard to say because I feel like it was kind of a push from Cass in Survivor Cagayan. I think that Cass had a couple of worse moments in Cagayan, like when she told Jatia that she was going to be voting for her at the tribal council. So I think that she had a couple of bumps in the road at Cagayan, but nothing that was a super bad move unless there's anything that you could think of that I'm missing.
No.
But I feel like it was pretty similar the first couple of games. It's really like at this same exact point in the game, this is where Cass's game ended up going in a totally different direction and really changed up how the Survivor Cagayan post-merge game went. And I'm really looking forward to getting into that tomorrow with Trish.
Yeah, that's going to be great. A little sad that you don't have Sarah, but Trish is going to be great as well.
Yeah.
This is from Pat Tad. Should Tasha have trusted Cass? Tasha shouldn't have lived in the past, but would it be a bad move to trust Cass? I don't think that Tasha could ever trust Cass. I think that it's just that, again, about the history. It's just fundamentally broken.
Yeah, trust her with what? Especially when the plan is like, Andrew is like, let me just tell you what happened last night. Like, Sierra and Cass totally screwed me over. Like, we're voting one of them off. And then what is Tasha supposed to say? Like, well, Cass, I think, is Tasha going to be like Cass with Jatia? Like, well, I think it's going to be you tonight, Cass.
Right. I mean, but it's tough because, there's the straightforward policy, which typically is niche. We don't want to go there because that creates opportunities for the person on the bottom to flip the thing. And Cass, she loves to flip situations around. But also, with Tasha's like, can you lie to Cass? You've got all this history. So it's, again, it was just a bad situation. It's not going to end pretty much any other way than the way that it ended.
Okay.
Yeah. Here's from Red, Blue, Green. Do you think Spencer would have flipped if Sierra and Cass had proposed Savage instead of Tasha? This is interesting, and I had wondered about this. Cass is coming to Spencer saying, you could be the fifth. We know that they're splitting on me and Sierra. You could be R5, and we could vote out Tasha. Is that an attractive offer to Spencer, who has great history with Tasha, who has worked with Tasha in the past? Does he want to cut off a potential ally at the knees when he has very few friends maybe in this game to begin with? Or do you pitch somebody else? Should Cass have compartmentalized her feelings about Tasha and proposed, say Savage? Let's offer up Savage's head.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, I don't know what those negotiations look like. I don't know if Spencer went to them and said, hey, I'm out, and they said, okay, all right, hold on, one last thing. So what if instead of Tasha, what if we did Andrew? What if we did this? What if we did that? And there's just no way of knowing some of those side conversations that ultimately ended up happening. And hopefully we can get into some of that stuff with exit interviews and whatnot and really start to, crack this thing open a bit more. But it's possible they did say that.
Yeah. Maybe Spencer was like, I don't want to vote out Savage. He gave me a handshake deal that he would never write my name down. That's gold in this game.
Yeah.
This is from XMHGI1. Why are all of a sudden all of the Cagayan players dropping like fleas instead of flies?
Yeah.
You don't
Okay.
want to drop like a flea. That seems really bad.
Is that like was Wu was a dog for Tony? Is that what it was?
Yeah, exactly. So we lost Wu. Now we've lost Kass.
It would not shock me if Spencer goes out next week.
Yeah, I could see it. Could totally see it. I could totally see Spencer. Would you be shocked to see Tasha go?
I would be very surprised to see Tasha go next week.
Hard to picture that scenario right now. It doesn't have anyone super actively gunning for her now that Kass is gone. But yeah, I could see Spencer being in trouble. Spencer's been in trouble a lot this game, so it would be unusual for him to be completely safe. Yeah. So I don't know.
Okay, let's take another question. This is from Fire Fist Ace. Do you think that Spencer is getting a winner's edit or at least a final 3 edit? Are you seeing good things you like from Spencer in terms of his edit?
He's a complicated character. You know, they're really trying to draw out the emotional component of Spencer. I think that that's always a good sign for the people who have life in this game, but it also could be where we love Spencer on the show. Let's give him a lot of juice. Let's give him a lot of legs to stand on while he's here. It could go either way. Again, like a guy like Joe, hard road to picture how Spencer is getting there, you know, especially with the overwhelming Bayon numbers of the Bayon originals. Hard to imagine how the Bayon originals, those are good. Those are good. What do you think? Do you think that there's the edit is supporting a Spencer win at this point?
I don't know if it's necessarily supporting a Spencer win. Like, you know, it could also be that CBS got all these votes. Yeah. And they said, wow, we had 30 million votes for Joe. We had, 28 million votes for Spencer. Let's make sure we really give the people what they want, and let's give them a lot of Spencer in these episodes. And he could get voted out next week, but at least people feel like, okay, well, he was on the show. And the same thing with Joe. And let's give the people, because they sort of like, in addition to like they let the audience pick, they also kind of did a focus group of who are the people you want to see the most. So let's make sure we tell the story that happens out here, but let's also give the people what they want in terms of we know who people want to see the most. Let's make sure we feature these people also.
That's a fantastic point. Maybe Jeff Varner got all of the votes, and that's why he was so heavily featured in 4 episodes. You know, I think that's a great point. I think,
but also they have to tell the story. So if Jeff Varner is doing cool stuff, like show Jeff Varner doing cool stuff also.
Right. But I think that the point is that you raised is Survivor's got some hard data on who likes who this season. So play to that. Sure, absolutely, that makes sense to me.
Now, it backfires if Spencer gets voted out soon and people are, like, flipping over cars in the CBS lot. Like,
no, it doesn't, because Spencer gets, 3rd time's a charm every day of the week.
We loved him so much. Why did you take him from us?
No, CBS!
Yeah. All right, let's take this one from Spool Lies, who says, with Sierra's argument at Tribal compelling, isn't it a bad idea to remind people that you're willing to play hard?
Yeah, I don't know that I loved Sierra's. I don't know that I loved Sierra's pitch tonight. What did you think of Sierra's pitch?
Yeah, Sierra does do the thing where she talks about like how she's willing to do anything to win, and she is willing to play hard and go to rocks. It is a good reminder at like a reunion show to get people to vote you into the season, but maybe it's not the kind of thing you want to hear if you're one of Sierra's competitors.
Yeah. Again, I think that she was in a really bad spot throughout the episode, and probably was very frustrated at that point. So. What are you going to do?
Yeah. Okay. What about this one from...
yes. Stefania says, is Kelly Wigglesworth the biggest casting dud of the season? Wow. Harsh. Way harsh, Stefania.
As of right now?
Yeah.
I think that of the 12 people left in the game, the person that's bringing the least to the table is probably Kelly Wigglesworth.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I don't think of the full season. I think you could look at it, at least one person from the pre-merge who could win that crown. But right now, there's just not a ton going on with Wigglesworth. This is a question from Rob has a nemesis. Oh my God, that's scary. What the hell is Steven's edit? I still love him because I always will, but he's been nerdy, cringy, sympathetic, weak, funny. ...
He's a complicated guy.
Yeah, he's a complicated guy, sweetheart. Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think that, I love Steven's edit. I think that Steven is being portrayed in a really human way. I think that he's showing more personality in this season than he ever showed in Token Jeans, personally.
Yeah, with no poems from Steven in
Yeah.
Tokuchi. You have to go to Coach for that.
Yeah. Speaking of Steven, there's already a Twitter account at FishPoetSteve. This exists already. Poet Steven Fishback. Has the post-merge game evolved to the point where it is truly a vote-by-vote game instead of two sides battling? The first issue I take with that tweet is that it is not in the form of a poem. A haiku would have been.
Steven, if there's going to be a Fish Poet Steve Twitter account, like it should all be like, there once was a guy named Fish who's going on Survivor was his wish. Like it needs to be poems.
Yeah.
Limerick and not be making poems.
Limerick Fishback, Limmerback would be good. Haiku Fishback, that's very tweetable.
That's all good. That's all good. All right. So did we answer the question?
We talked about it earlier. I think we're fine. So this is from Tracy Joshua Gingell. Seriously, wouldn't it be great if they threw in a random tribe switch right now? Why not? Now, this is interesting.
No.
You don't think so? You don't think that there's any chance?
Michelle Yee.
Yeah, well, they've done it in the past, but I mean, this season has been about throwing so many ideas at the wall and seeing what sticks to the plan. And so far, they split them up from 2 to 3, unprecedented. They went back to 2. Now they're at 1 at such an early stage. Have we merged this early because we'll unmerge? Is that at least a possibility?
We just talked about how great this episode was and how we've been waiting to get to this merge, and this is fantastic, and this is where we want to be. Why would we leave Disneyland and go someplace else? We're at the merge. It's a great season.
Right, but
Don't touch it.
But maybe the concept is we're at Disney World this entire season, and there's so many different places to explore. So let's go on another ride. Let's split these people up and see what that attraction looks like. That they would eventually get back together. I don't know. People have been pitching the unmerge forever. This could be the season to do it if it's ever going to happen.
Yeah. We've danced with this with the fake merge in Gabon. We did the thing with Michelle Yee in Fiji. Like we don't talk about these things as look back fondly on them. Fake merge in Gabon is a little fun.
I love Fiji.
But that being said, no, this is good. This is good. Let's play this out. Let's see how it goes.
Okay. This is Robin Jones. Are you surprised that it isn't a bond between Jeremy and Kelly Wentworth since they were both aligned together on San Juan del Sur? We don't know. We've really got no clue of what the relationship between Jeremy and Wentworth looks like.
Yeah. Well, Kelly was like, "Oh, I've got Keith. Don't worry about Keith." And Keith was, she did not have Keith.
Unless Wentworth and Keith both flipped over to Jeremy's side as a joint decision. We both.
Kelly Wentworth was with Kass and Sierra every time we saw them together.
Yeah, but in the end, she voted against him.
I think she's smart enough to sort of like read the writing on the wall. Yeah. But I don't think that ultimately she had enough sway to keep Keith as a number for her side for that new Takeo group.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's do a couple more questions. Film TV Nerd wants to know, did you see how many times they zoomed into the well?
Yeah.
It's there a hidden immunity out of clue or so let's just take the first part of this.
Yeah. I did notice that. Did you notice this? There's this conversation that Savage and Fish, and I think Jeremy's there. I don't know who else is there, but they're talking after the challenge, and they're talking about what to do here. And the camera keeps looking at the top of the well, and it looks like back in Philippines, the lid on the rice. Like it looks like there's something there. It looks like something funky's going on.
When I watch the episode again, I will look at it and pause it and see if there's anything that we can get into.
Yeah, wouldn't be surprised. There's been no immunity idol action yet, so maybe the show is going to try and encourage some idol action going on here.
All right, give us one last question.
All right, one last question from Zach Mason. Was this the best merge episode of all time? What do you think? Is this the best one? Is this number one on the list?
We'd have to really break it down. I think that this was a very, very good merge episode, but the boot was kind of predictable based on where things were going. I think that had Spencer flipped and Tasha ended up getting voted out, I think that it would probably be higher up in the running, but I feel like that the boot probably this was ended up being the most predictable probably by about 40 minutes into the episode. You probably would have said Kass is going to be the one that goes home. She ultimately does, and while there was a lot of fireworks along the way, I think you want to have a more unpredictable finish, and maybe looking back to Survivor Cagayan might be the answer to that question, because not only did we have all of the craziness of the merge, but we had the whole thing with Sarah, the president,
Right.
and being courted by both sides, and then ultimately we have Trish talking with Kass, and Kass ultimately flipping, plus then Tony played the idol on LJ, LJ played the idol on Tony, so there was a lot of fantastic merges, and I think that might be, if I had to pick just off the top of my head, maybe it's that one.
Heroes Villains is great.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's the double idol play. That's terrific. The Philippines merge is great. There's a lot of great merges. I think that this was a great episode. Very, 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 very good episode of Survivor. I don't think it's a best merge contender. I don't.
Yeah. Best episode of the season?
Very good. It was a great episode. I think that probably I would still go with last week was just emotional and just ridiculous. It was just such a roller coaster ride. But this was a really complicated episode of the show where things could have gone so many ways, and having all of these people on the same beach together, finally interacting with each other completely freely, free to talk to whoever they wanted to. It was great. It was very, very good to see that. I still think last week was just such a ride that that's going to be hard for me to top. That was really, really good last week.
All right, one more thing, Wigler. The merge tribe name, Orkin
Mindy.
Orkin Mindy, the Orkin Man?
Yeah, the Orkin Man. Do you know what it means? Apparently, I don't know the name of the language. I guess it's Cambodian for thank you.
Is it really?
Yes, so says Stephen Fishback on Twitter. He
Okay,
says
so
it was thank you.
Hold on. So that was also the same name of last week's episode of The Walking Dead.
That's right.
Does that mean that Steven is actually dead?
No.
Okay.
He hid under the bodies this week.
Okay. All right. Good. That wasn't him getting voted out.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's climbing under the dumpster. He's good.
All right. Good stuff. All right. So, Josh, what's the hashtag tonight?
Oh my God. We could go hashtag Coach Fish. Hashtag Lean Meat Shield. I got down. That was pretty good.
All right. Lean meat shield.
Right.
Okay.
Because if you're watching your figure, that's probably good. And we know that Jeremy is not a big eater when it comes to Survivor, other than the bonus balut.
Yes. Well, I think balut is one of the leaner meats that you could have.
Yeah, probably. It's probably. Pretty
Okay.
good.
All right, so good stuff. Can't wait for exit interviews tomorrow. I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight, just counting down the hours. I'm just going to sleep in this chair, I think, maybe, and doze off over Da Vinci sleep a couple of minutes here and there. All right, counting down to Chaos Kass coming up on the podcast on Thursday, plus Josh will have his interview with her as well. You could go read all of Josh's outstanding work for Parade.com. Go to robbinswebsite.com/parade to go to the Josh Wigler archive for Parade.com, or you could follow Josh on Twitter. He is at Round Howard.
Yes, like Ron Howard but rounder, I'll say it.
And I'm at Rob Cesternino on Twitter, of course. Then we're going to have our big podcast. Trish Haggerty is going to be on the show. Plus,
so
we'll get into the voicemails with our good buddy Jordan Parhar. Get your voicemails and go to robbinswebsite.com/voicemail or 323-282-RHAP. And then so much fun. Can't wait to get into it all. Thanks to everybody who checked out the show tonight live, and then those of you guys who are also listening in the archives. Looking forward to reading your comments on robhasawebsite.com. Very, very fun stuff, Josh.
Great stuff. Very fun tonight, Rob. Can't wait to listen to your Kass talk. Can't wait to talk to her myself. This is gonna be a great Thursday, I think, coming up.
All right, subscribe to Rob Has a Podcast. Go to robhasawebsite.com/iTunes. Have a good one, everybody. Talk to you tomorrow.